Welcome to the Numerology and the Astrology for May 28th, 2020. If you add all those numbers together, you get a 19, and if you add the 1 and the 9 together, you get the number 10. So once again, we can take the 1 as an individual number and the 0, which is a magnifying number, so it magnifies everything by 10. And you look at the number 1, which is the individual, needs to magnify their energy field by 10. So it's like coming up and out, like bringing your power up and out. The number 10 and the number 1 are kind of connected in no matter what. So, the number 1 is about humility, and that great power really comes from humility and compassion. And those that lord power over others to invoke fear or guilt or shame are not really powerful. They're small people that have big egos, that actually feel like they have to be vicious in order to have any power or influence over the world, and they're desperate to try and control their world. And they will do it at their emotional whim of their primal reptilian brain. So, once again, the number 1 is associated with the Dalai Lama, and nobody would pretend that the Dalai Lama isn't incredibly powerful. But notice that his power comes from his compassion. Notice that the power is humble and it's authentic and it's sincere. And that's how you really lead. You don't lead from, this raging hate. You don't, lead from fear. You don't lead from all these places, but we live in a world and a society where, if you notice somebody that's off, there's a fear of confronting that person, a fear of telling them the truth. And so we just kind of like, we're just going to let them do their thing. We're just going to let them be their thing. And we're at a time where that condoning of extremely poor behavior and poor choices and childishness is absolutely no longer acceptable. It's just no longer acceptable. And we have to stand up, and we have to stand up for compassion, and we have to stand up for humility and authenticity and realness, and enough of this, power mongering games that so many people in the world that are in control of so much are using their, the world as their stage to play out the games of their egos. So it's a tricky moment in time. And so with this number 10, it's like, I want you to stand in your power, but I want you to stand in your power from the place of authenticity and realness. But that also means to not condone poor behavior and to call it out and to stand up and say something. And there's that herd mentality that, if nobody's saying anything, then nobody's going to say anything. And it's like, somebody's got to be brave, and somebody's got to be brave enough to enroll the hearts and the souls and the minds of others who have conscience, to stand against the negativity and the bullies that are out there right now. So, because the truth is that bullies are weak people, and they're more afraid than you are. And they use that anger and fear as a weapon to have any sort of control, because in reality, they're not even in control of themselves. They're not even in control of their own emotions. They're not even in control of their own actions. And so people like that need a buffer. They need a barrier put around them in order for them to follow a particular course. And right now, what's happened in the world is there's a lot of condoning of extremely poor behavior, and it doesn't serve humanity. It doesn't serve this world, and it will destroy the world. I mean, it absolutely will destroy this world if we let it, and we can't let it. We just can't let it. So this is where you have to believe in the power within you and others, that is about goodness and kindness. This is that moment where you have to abjectly refuse to collapse into the anger and toxic energy that is welling up inside so much of humanity. This is where sacred laws that protect life supersede any and all human laws. When you feel power within, you automatically feel a type of radiance expand out of your body. That energy is not yours alone. It is you expanding your soul essence beyond your mind and out into the external world. When you choose to do something, anything, Even if you do not think you can do it alone, you automatically tap into the life force energy of the planet. Your power moves outward, and that expansion is a request to the universe for more energy and help. You are asking to be hooked into the grid of Source itself. And that gives you access not only to the universal energy, but the energy and the life force of the plants, animals, the wind, and all the natural elements. When you open your essence in vulnerable sincerity to the forces of life, that life then surges into you. Most have not practiced holding so much energy and power. Most cannot hold it for long without short-circuiting themselves. But with practice, you can expand, tap into that grid, and channel massive amounts of energy through your body-mind. To do that cleanly and clearly, you have to be unattached, open, soft, sincere, and guileless. That is what is needed now in this world. That is what is being asked for from each of us now. That is how we can transcend this hatred and anger that threatens the life of this planet. No one can do it alone. We must be brave enough to have the courage to risk looking bad or wrong. I find a life without courage is no life at all. A life without risk means you are living in a comfortable cage and you are afraid of your own wildness. A life without a passion and a purpose is a waste. Okay, so the astrology for today. The moon is still in the uplifting and passionate sign of Leo. This stimulates your devotion, affection, and generous nature, all good and deeply needed things at this moment. The moon sextile to Venus in the morning brings more cooperation and harmony into your day. With your family and loved ones, be steady and reliable. Adapt to the situations that arise. Be courteous of others. And Mercury enters Cancer, and it will be there until August 4th. And finally, everyone begins to seek out more truth because everyone is really tired of the constant insanity. Think before you speak. Take in information and feel past the slants that you are being coaxed into by others. Emotions threaten to invade your logical mind. Do not let them. Bottom line, care for others. Care for all of life. Care for truth. Care for the things that matter and that will leave this world in a better place when it is done. You may be reflecting on the past nostalgically. What happened to our old world? Remember that beautiful and more peaceful world? The one that was sane and did not try to consciously make you crazy? You are learning about how you take in information. It is important to understand the psychology around their tactics because otherwise you're being used as a puppet for chaos. So, my quote for today actually came from what I said earlier in the numerology. A life without courage is no life at all. A life without risk means you are still living in a comfortable cage and you are afraid of your own wildness. A life without a passion and purpose is a waste. So my blog today. Wow, we live in a world where barbaric egos rule the world. They want to hate and intend to inflict damage on those they target as less than. This is completely unacceptable. Such people are locked into the primal reptilian part of their brain. Their higher functioning mind is weak, uneducated, and unable to control the raging, defensive posturing that feels threatened and needs to prove their power and strength. They are frozen, wounded children that never grew up. They never got off the position of playground bullying. They never learned real compassion. They believe that control is more powerful than love. While you can learn to unconditionally love such people, they will never gain your respect, and they will never gain your trust. They are the snakes and spiders and scorpions of the world that will lash out and attack, believing that they are being provoked. Weaponized with their hate, they believe their actions are justified. Hate is never justified. Targeting those with less in a compromised position is never justified. Creating fear so they can blame to feel powerful is never justified. May the powers that are really in charge of this domain invoke the appropriate consequences that will teach an entire hateful group that this behavior will no longer be acceptable, tolerated, condoned, or without tremendous and grievous consequences to themselves and those that they love. Thanks, everybody.